From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more Corner Pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com.
Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Coming up on today's show, National Signing Day, some final thoughts, and a preview from our own Michael Langston. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, where you can find daily delicious lunch specials running from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. On Wednesdays, we get pressed ham and Swiss, grilled, caramelized ham, topped with melted Swiss, pressed and toasted. Serve with some horsey sauce and pickles if you would like. They also come with a side, curly fries, straight fries, maybe onion rings, potato salad, broccoli, side salad, tater tots, or freshly cooked potato chips. It's all over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Don't forget, tomorrow, Thursdays, also bingo starts at 7 o'clock. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Corey, thumbs up, rate it, review it, 5-star, all that kind of stuff. All that kind of stuff. You're the guy that shines like August through January. You know, with like football. I mean, you bring the heat all the time, Corey, but like this is Langston's day. But,
right.
You know, you've got thoughts when it comes to sign day. As we sit here and record the podcast for you, everybody, Florida State is number 2, Corey, number 2 in the on-3 transfer portal rankings when it comes to team rankings, just behind Kenny and Arizona State.
Okay, right.
I mean, who knows who else they'll pull here. But if they lose, if Jared Verse goes to the pros, I don't think that counts because he's going to the pros. He's not going back into the portal. So It wouldn't count against them. But their formula factors in what you're losing and what you're gaining. So they're number 2 right now in the transfer portal rankings. And obviously when the portal opens back up after spring football, they'll be able to maybe tack onto it then as well if they choose. They're in the lower teens, like 15, 16, 17 right now as we record this. Corey, you're of the belief, and I'm probably in the minority, that you have to really rely on high school guys to build a championship winner. But I mean, what is Wednesday going to matter for you when it comes to high school kids when you know you have like the number 2 portal class with dudes that are ready to go? Some cool pieces. Give them 2-3 years. Give them Josh Storms. Then we'll see. But man, you got so many guys that are ready to go now. I'm not that concerned about being 15, 16, 17 in the conventional rankings, if you will.
Yeah, here's what I would say to that, because we talked about this a lot on headlines. Like, it was most of the show. It was right after the kid from Auburn committed.
Keandre Jones, yes.
On Tuesday, another offensive lineman. It's their third one in 3 days. And, yeah, I think what my point was on that show, and I think it kind of sounds like sour grapes, because I'm with you. I'm like, I don't, because Ira was talking about how many people are going to be frustrated or mad or bummed about what happens today because they're going to see Miami with like a top 5 class, and they're going to see their own team with like a 17th ranked class or whatever it ends up being, especially if the Falk kid goes to Auburn. And I was like, man, what do y'all really care? Yeah. Like, what? I don't think a National Signing Day recruiting ranking, team ranking, has ever mattered less than it does right now. And it will continue to matter until the portal, if and when it ever gets figured out and there's some sort of regulations with it. If that doesn't happen, then I don't know why it would matter. Like,
regulations with NIL, you mean, more so than the portal? I mean, the portal's regulated now. There's, 2 windows, or you're talking about like tampering being
more like tampering and more like I don't even know. Like, maybe the portal's always going to be a thing, or maybe it's scheduled later, or it's scheduled earlier. I don't know. Or National Signing Day doesn't bump up against it.
Right.
But I couldn't fathom why and how somebody listening to this show that's a fan of this show and a fan of this program, because obviously you're a fan of the program if you're listening to this show, how you could be bummed by what happens tomorrow. Like, what do you think that says about the direction of the program, that it's not going in the right direction?
Exactly.
Because high school recruiting rankings, it's not that they don't matter. They do matter, clearly. Obviously, look who's number 1. Look who's number 2. I think Alabama's number 1 in all the major services. I think Georgia's number 2. But Florida State right now isn't fishing from the pond that those 2-3 schools are. Or Miami is, because Miami has Ruiz. and Ruiz is the billionaire that's, frankly, paying for a lot of their recruits, which is legal now theoretically. But say you finish with the 16th ranked high school recruiting class in the number 2 portal class. Well, what's better? What that's going to be like 12 guys probably. You're getting rid. I shouldn't say getting rid. You're losing some players that were never going to play for you or be much of contributors for you, and you're bringing in people that will start immediately on a team that could contend for an ACC championship. That, to me, in December of 2022, as we speak, is more important for the immediate future of Florida State football by leaps and bounds than whether you get Keldrick Falk later today. Keldrick Falk does not have an impact on next year's Florida State team, probably. Jared Verse will if he comes back. Does that matter to you guys? I'm talking about the people that get mad. Does that not so that doesn't count as a recruiting win? Or going again a 2-year starter out of the portal at defensive end that's a potential all-ACC player next year. Does that not matter because you finished 17th in the recruiting rankings? I mean, I guess my point is right now where Florida State is, you can't have it all. So I think my perspective is they seem to be hell-bent on raiding the portal for guys that can help immediately, and spending money on retention. And I think right now that is the best thing for Florida State University. That is not sour grapes. I'm not going to sit here and say that if they had the number 3 recruiting class in the country right now, I wouldn't be doing cartwheels and saying, see, he can do it. I still think there are questions about the high school recruiting aspect of this coaching staff. But as Aslan alluded to, and I also do think that matters, right? You can't just, I don't know that you can get 18 new transfers every year. And continue to have some consistency. I do think you need culture setters, development setters, program players. All that matters in recruiting. But in this day and age, it's what happens to later on today in all the final recruiting rankings and all the stupid hat games they do at the podium. It's never mattered less than it does now. And it's going to get less and less important as the portal continues, in my opinion, to kind of dominate what college football has become.
Okay, I like that, Corey. But again, we sort of diplomatically and politely, gentlemanly disagree about the mix of players you need. So, I mean, you just outlined it there about what it means in the here and now. Have you changed your mind at all?
Yes, I think so, and I think maybe look, man, they just got if I know Florida State fans would be over the moon if they just signed the number 7 overall high school recruit, right?
Right. Like
if they just got the number 7 overall high school recruit, people would be going crazy. Their rankings would have shot up by 3 or 4 because of one player. They have in the On3 transfer portal rankings, they have the number 7 overall player and the number 10 overall player. Those are 5 stars, right? And the difference is they're 5 stars that we all know can play because they've done it at this level. They've done it against other grown men. They haven't done it against high school kids. This isn't a guess. These guys are going to play and they're going to start immediately. You're not having to, develop them for the next year and a half until they're ready to play. And I brought this point up with Ira and Jeff. The Cypress kid from Virginia is the number 2 player in the country right now in the portal.
He was one until that Travis Hunter.
Yeah, until another another guy with Florida State ties, sort of.
Just kidding, Travis, love you, man.
Went to the portal. So Travis Hunter's the number 1 player. This kid is number 2. So again, if you're the number 2 overall player in the corner in the portal, you're a 5-star. I don't know what On3 ranks them. I think they're all 4 stars in the portal. But that's a 5-star talent. Is that not more important to the immediate success of Florida State than Miami going and getting 2 5-star high school cornerbacks?
I know, but you were talking about you can't build a winner, like a championship team, without having a really good, strong foundation of high school kids.
Yeah, I think there's a mix. I do think there's a mix, but yes. I probably... I mean, I guess I'm just speaking from my own experience.
You can do some things in this portal right now, Corey, where you're a playoff team next year, maybe. You can do stuff in the portal that can make you a playoff team next year. There's nothing you can do with an 18-year-old kid that can make you a playoff team right now if you're Florida State, with a 10-win season over Oklahoma and all these guys coming back that we think are coming
Yeah.
back.
And so, look, man, you could look at an offense next year that has, Robert Scott would be a guy you recruited. Yeah. Maurice Smith would be a guy you recruited. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it, man. Are they the only two guys on the offense that are homegrown, so to speak, National Signing Day recruits?
Yeah, I mean, because you would think maybe Bless is back at right tackle, and then probably these two
No,
transfers.
I think the kid from UTEP is the right tackle.
No, he'll be guard. I know he played
I
a lot
guess
of
he
tackle.
could be a guard. Yeah,
Michael's impression is that he'll play on the inside. So you get the kid Roddick from Colorado, the kid from UTEP Byers. They're your guards. They replace Dylan and Dimitri, and then you have, as you said, Maurice at center and Robert Scott left tackle. Those are your homegrown guys, and probably Bless Harris at right tackle.
And obviously, Johnny Wilson, Pittman, or Winston Wright, maybe all three. Trey Benson. Toa Feely is a guy that is homegrown. Rodney Hill will be a guy that's homegrown. But
Jaheim
the tight
Bell's
ends
starting tight end.
I mean, look, so that's kind of my point. But the beauty about what Florida State, I think, has done in the portal is, Jordan Travis is going to be 24 years old. He's been here for a long time. Johnny Wilson, assuming he's back, will be his second year. Pittman's second year. Winston Wright, first year playing, but second year in the program. The two linemen are incoming guys, and so are the tight ends. So it is a nice mix, in my opinion, of not just one-year wonders, but guys that have been around the program that can show the new guys the way, even though they're transfers themselves. That they can establish or help establish the culture or maintain the culture, I guess. I keep coming back to Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama don't do it this way. That's my one hang-up when it comes to proceeding like this for the next 10 years is Alabama, Georgia, and Ohio State recruit the best players in the country repeatedly. They develop them, and they become stars there. That's what you would think Florida State is going to try to get in the business of doing. I also don't know that Florida State can be in that business. And I'm not trying to make it all about money, but they don't have the money that those schools have. And I'm like, the TV revenue is just going, that gap is going to get wider. So it's almost like, it almost seems like Florida State has to do like a little bit of Moneyball. And like, okay, all these schools like Miami, for instance.
And you're under the impression that high school kids cost more than portal kids. Not to
I'm
gross about it, but
not always. But those guys that everybody wants,
yeah,
they might just cost the same. But if you've got a chance to go get, let's put it this way. Let's say Jared Verse was coming, he's still negotiating. And Keldrick Falk is asking for the same amount of money or close to it that Jared Verse is.
Yeah.
Well, what sane individual would give that money to an unproven 18-year-old just to bump up recruiting rankings? No, man, you give it to the guy that's proven. And
I
so
don't think Fentrell Cypress right now costs anything as much as Travis Hunter did last year.
Correct, or maybe what even those two Miami quarterbacks do right now.
Yeah.
And if he did, would you not spend it on him and not those guys?
Yeah.
So he's proven he's an all-ACC cornerback. He's a future NFL player that you know because you've seen him in college. So anyway, the overriding point, I think, is that Florida State has a finite amount of roster money. And again, it might make you feel gross to hear about this, but this is the reality of the situation. These guys are not coming back for free, and these portal kids are not coming to Tallahassee for zero. So if you have a finite amount of money and you have to spend most of it in one way or the other, it's not like Florida State isn't in the business of getting deals for incoming high school recruits too. They do that as well, but I would think at these other schools that percentage of that is larger because they don't need to go in the portal. Yeah. Florida State still needs the portal. It might always need the portal because here's the thing, man. He's good at it. Really good at it. So tomorrow, if you're around buddies that are like, man, they're woe is me because Florida State is 17th in the country in high school recruiting rankings, well, be sure to point out that they're number 2 in the portal rankings, and they're still in on like 2 of the top 5 players in the portal. So that number could go to number 1 either way, but they're getting guys that are going to play immediately next year. And I don't know, man. So if you factored in the portal and recruiting rankings.
I wish they had that. Yes,
I wish they did too, and I
that's the
think
next thing.
all these sites need to end up doing that at some point. The problem is that nobody cares about high school recruiting rankings except today, National Signing Day. But you should go back a year from now and see what really transpired. You also who did the best adding to their roster, and that you won't really know. Like we talked about yesterday, you won't really know until May.
Right.
But you probably will know in February. There'll be some guys out there that transfer after spring practice, but I think most of the big names will have transferred or be in the market now. Like Travis Hunter didn't wait till after the spring. Neither did the kid for Virginia or the UTEP kid that they got last night, Byers. Big time get, by the way. Huge get.
Yes.
So I wish they could do that, because I think if you put the 15 or 16 kids that are currently committed to Florida State high school wise, along with the 7 transfer portal kids, and that includes the running back from Penn State that's been here for months, I think that's a top 8, top 5, top 7 impactful signing class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, so that's all. It's weird to be like this and have to view National Signing Day in such a different lens, but I do, man. I'm like you. I'm like, all right, man. Last year was last year because you had the number 1 player in the country pull an all-time upset at your expense. Yep. But other than that, wasn't all that big a deal. You ended up being a pretty darn good football team. Not many of those guys played. Most of them stayed, though, and they might be good next year. And whoever you get this year, what's the retention? What do you think the retention is going to be of, let's say they end up with 18 high school commitments. How many of them are here in 2025? That's the game that all these colleges have to play, because I think you're lucky if 12 of them are here. And I think Miami will be lucky if 2/3 of their commitments from this class are there after 2 years.
And let's not lose sight of the fact that they have a commitment from Hakeem Williams, who A&M and Miami were after. So,
yeah,
it wasn't just charisma that won him over. I guess the last kind of example I would bring up is you kind of maybe assess where you are now. You bring in these offensive linemen. Like the only risk, if you will, is, they're getting Lucas Simmons. He's a really highly sought-after offensive tackle from high school. So they're not just strictly going to the portal and getting offensive linemen. They're going to the portal and they're recruiting kids from high school. They wanted Rod Kearney, but, that went a different way. You kind of think about, are they forfeiting maybe developing a guy like Trey Jackson from the national championship winning team, right?
I was going to say, he doesn't have any eligibility left, Aslan.
Yeah. But do you maybe forfeit losing out on a guy like that you can develop and he becomes a really key piece and a strength of what you're building on the offensive line to add a guy out of the portal? And it's like, well, no, you can still do both. And listen, however good Trey Jackson was going into the 13 season, like a Jeremiah Byers might be just as good as Trey Jackson was. So if you find the right kind of guy in the portal, you can wait up until that point and then go ahead and add that guy to your roster that would fill a spot rather than, wait for this guy to develop onto year 3. So it's just really hard to see ways that this is a bad sort of formula to go after it. Listen, man,
I think it's a healthy mix, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want.
Yes.
That's you want a healthy mix. You can't depend solely on the portal, clearly, but some schools are going to depend on it more than others, and you get more immediate success out of the portal. That's just the way of the world. And I should mention that we're not. I don't think we should assume that Bless Harris is going to beat out Armella for the right tackle spot.
Fair.
And Armella would count as another homegrown guy. Mm-hmm. And Estes at guard. What has happened here is, you are loading up an offensive line. You like some of the young guys. You really do. You like some of the young guys from this past class, including Armella. And then you obviously the portal guys come in and they're going to compete. That's great. Competition is great. Maurice Smith is better, and he even said so after Monday's practice because Caden Lyles came. He got himself in better shape. He got bigger. He became a better player because he had real competition at center. Well, Julian Armella is going to have real competition at right tackle, and so is Bless Harris. In the guard spots, there'll be real competition. So that only bodes well for this football program to bring in guys that can add depth. And if somebody gets hurt, like happened this year, man, they had a pretty healthy amount. They had a pretty substantial amount of injuries on the offensive line. They had guys that could step in. I didn't think the portal would end up impacting these schools. Florida State really in particular, man. I don't know that any school has done better in the United States. In fact, I'm pretty confident nobody has than Florida State. He has done a sensational job of utilizing this thing. And now with Battle's End and other collectives, you have an ability to go secure even better, more highly sought after players. But last year especially, getting guys, Johnny Wilson wasn't expensive. Micah Pittman wasn't expensive. But you got guys that came, Dylan Gibbons was not expensive. They didn't even know if Dylan Gibbons came here before NIL was a thing, I think. So, but you made great decisions in the portal to completely revolutionize and rebuild this program, and now you are a portal destination for some really good players, and it's kind of a cool place to be, man. Like I said, it's really cool to see or to think about. Okay, they're done with offense. You would think they still got some holes on defense, and they got the ability to fill them, which is cool.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I don't know if we ever really, last thing, I don't think we really ever anticipated that there would be this many really, truly quality people in the portal. We always kind of thought it'd be guys that had sour grapes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's the best point, Aslan.
Too.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because when the portal thing of our whole lives, kids that transferred were either unhappy or malcontents or not good enough. And clearly that's not the case anymore. Yeah. Devin Leary, he went from NC State to Kentucky.
Well,
he was going to be the starter.
That's the greatest example, but yeah.
No, but I mean, like, you would have 5 years ago, Devin Leary never leaves NC State.
Yeah.
And the point being, like, you.
Well, that Grayson McCall kid, they're saying that Grayson McCall kid from Coastal might be kicking the tires of Florida. Like, that's good for them, if you will. I mean, that kid.
I don't know. I'd play if I was Florida, I'd play the kid that played in the bowl game.
Yeah,
I thought he showed me some things.
You're right.
I mean, look at that. He put up 3 points.
I mean,
moved up and down the field over the course of 4 quarters.
A lot of pressure to get some points on the board, and he delivered, man. He got him in scoring
exactly
position.
Right. Who's felt more pressure than him? And he delivered there at the end. But, yeah, like, I guess the point being, Devin Leary, those kind of guys didn't transfer at this kind of rate 5, 6, 10 years ago. But now you go into next season as a Florida State fan, knowing that you have a very good quarterback, clearly, but also knowing it's his last year. And maybe Tate Rodemaker develops into something awesome, or Duffy, or Brock Glenn, or whoever's here in that room in the spring, or maybe they don't. And if they don't, I feel like every Florida State fan will be pretty confident that they'll go get somebody in the portal that can play really good football. They'll go get their Devin Leary, because those guys are out there now. So it's not even that important to develop great quarterbacks anymore. Just go get the guy that just won the Heisman. Well, I guess he was playing for the same guy that developed him, but he's playing for a different team. So it's just, I just think now, and we're going to have all the coverage National Signing Day. We're starting at 8 a.m. Aslan?
Yeah, sure.
You and Michael?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So, and then from 10 to noon, I think it's Tom Lang. We're going to be, then it's the Jeff Cameron show. It's basically wall-to-wall coverage of National Signing Day.
Nice.
So clearly I shouldn't be talking about how unimportant it is. It is important, and we've known about these kids for a year now. It'll be cool to see their facts, not their faxes, their, I guess, DMs come in, or however they do it now. But
it's still a fax to me.
Exactly. It'll always be a fax. If they should go back, they should make the portal kids fax. Just to separate them from the high school kids.
Could you imagine Travis Hunter faxes it in, like everybody's quiet. It's like everyone's like, all right, man, what a great class we had. And it kind of a quiet settles over the war room. The lights are dim, and then they hear the like, what? And then someone runs into the office, and everyone's just like talking and nibbling on some pizza. And the intern comes back in the office. He's got the look of a ghost on his face. Like, what? And he just looks at the piece of paper in his hand. He's like, Travis Hunter just faxed us his NLI. He's coming to Florida State.
Yeah.
Boom. But he doesn't have to send NLI. He's a transfer. He would just
they don't do that, and apparantly they don't fax anymore anyway. So
sorry. All right, finish this up, Corey. We got to go.
It's a great scene. It's a great scene setter. It's great to think about. Yeah. But yeah. So my point being, as much as I'm saying it's never been less important than it is today, it's still very important. It's still, again, you're bringing in anywhere from 16 to 18 to 20 kids, many of whom will be here for their whole careers. Might be half, might be 2/3, but they will be guys that matter on this football program. So it's always an important day. It's always an exciting day. It's just that it's not the end-all, be-all like it used to be. This used to be the only day you could add to your roster. So, of course, it was enormous. It was the only day. Well, now, in the last week, you've added a lot. So that's I guess my overall point. So I know people will be upset because they don't have a high recruiting ranking, and you don't want to live in the 18s and 20s for the rest of your career as a head coach. But this particular December anyway, I don't know how any Florida State fans, when they're looking at the overall roster construction and what they're doing through retention and through the portal, how you cannot be overjoyed by what has happened. And guess what? Keldrick Falk, if he goes to Auburn, might transfer to Florida State in a year or two. Yeah. That's not off the table anymore either. You recruited Jaheim Bell 2 or 3 years ago. Didn't work out. He took off the Florida State hat and threw it on the ground. Guess what? He's a Seminole now.
Put the helmet on.
Yeah, he's going to be wearing the actual helmet and probably scoring a few touchdowns this year. So it's just not the end-all, be-all it used to be. And it's going to be interesting to see how our perceptions change of this event as we continue to, like I said, the portal continues to kind of gain so much importance.
The holiday season is upon us, not just National Sign Day, everybody. Bowl season. MyBookie's in the giving spirit. They've got 12 straight days of giveaways, and it starts today. It's a can't-miss promotion. Odds boost, casino chips, live betting, straight-up locks. It's all there for you at mybookie.ag. Sign up over at MyBookie using the promo code WARCHANT on your first deposit, and you can redeem a bonus of up to $200. Brand new deposit bonus designed for bettors looking to cash in and cash out real quick. Bowl season, let's get to it. One game today, Corey, one singular game. Western Kentucky, which I think has got that quarterback from West Florida that we were intrigued by last year. But yeah. I think he's transferring, so I don't know if he's playing or not.
No, he said I think he was going to transfer and then said he was going to come back. Changed his mind,
awesome,
I thought.
Awesome. Yeah. But it don't matter. They're playing South Alabama and LaDamian Webb.
Yeah.
South Alabama giving 4. That's fine. Give it away. I'm picking the Jags. Who you got?
Absolutely. I'm with South Alabama, too, just because of the famed half of the web toe, is that what it was, backfield?
Yeah.
The duck backfield, whatever we called it. He's still out there. He's still producing. Florida State running backs all over the country doing great things. I'm rooting for him, and I'm going to pick them to win.
Boom. There you go, everybody. Can't miss it. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with mybookie.ag. Use that promo code WARCHANT. All right, as advertised, we got Michael Langston here to preview the upcoming day that will be National Signing Day. All of this is over at the warchant.com Tribal Council, or rather the Premium Recruiting Board, so follow along there as well. Michael, I'm going to ask you a couple questions before we kind of go into the schedule and let folks know like when certain guys are going to sign. I would just say going to bed on Tuesday night, looking at the class, 15 commitments, let's focus on who they have committed. It sounds like you feel good about like 99% of them, and there's one guy that maybe is like but he's only 50-50, so it's not bad. I mean, can you just talk about real quickly how they look for who they have committed going into Wednesday and how likely it is they hold on to all those people?
Yeah, I mean, I think the main guy to focus on is certainly Keldrick Falk. That's the one we're waiting on. That's going to be around noon. That we're waiting on. The rest of them, I think most of them are going to, commit early. I know people brought up Hakeem Williams, but I haven't heard anything there. I think FSU is really good. They expect them to sign. Everything else, I think, is just, with the commits, I think it's just, status quo. You can go through I think there's a list. I'll go through a few of these guys to kind of keep you guys so you know what the times are and stuff going up. But I think as far as targets, probably Edwin Joseph I've heard is 11:45. That's what I was told of his announcement. So that's something to watch around noon that he'll be deciding. Conrad Hussey's, I've heard it's around 10 a.m. from what I've heard, but it's really, they don't have a ceremony in December. So I think it's really could come early in the morning. It could come around 10 a.m. But it's kind of really up to him of whenever he wants to pop it on either social media or whatnot. So that's kind of the one to watch there. And then I already mentioned Keldrick Falk. And then Andy Jean, I think, is around 11 a.m. Wide receiver. I think it's going to be either FSU or Florida to finish there. But everything else, I think, is kosher. I think most of these are going to be early in the morning. Vandreas Jacobs, Sam Singleton, Brock Glenn. I think even, Hakeem has a ceremony at 1, but I think he's going to send that letter of intent early in the morning. So I think everyone kind of knows that deal. So outside of that, you guys can go to the PRB. It has all the listing of all the times, and certainly everything I just covered you can read on there and just stay in tune with everything.
Keldrick Falk, 4-star consensus defensive end out of Highland Home, Alabama. You mentioned Andy Jean. So who else besides him? It sounds like him, Hussey, Edwin Joseph. Those are the guys that are out there. Chris Otto, I guess, as well. Just those guys, yes. Or those some of the names that people need to maybe keep an eye on that we have not had a name or a school committed, associated, and attached to them.
Right. Chris Otto's another one I forgot to mention. He will be sometime in the morning. So I was told like 9. So just kind of waiting on, that. Who was the other one you asked about?
Hussey, Edwin Joseph, Chris Otto, and Andy Jean. Those are like the 4 guys that are out there that
yes.
So when people ask about like signing day surprise, it's from those 4 guys. There's really no one else that we
right. I think those are the main ones. Okay. Isaac Smith is another one. He announced at 12:30, but I expect LSU, so I'm not really heavily monitoring that. But I think those are kind of the 5. And then I feel good about Otto. I feel good about where they stand with Joseph, but we'll see. It's recruiting. You never know. But those are kind of the main ones. So that I'm going to be monitoring. And then you have Cam Robinson. Ceremonies at 6 p.m., but likely to sign in the morning. So right. I don't know when we would get word on that. I would imagine it will be in certainly, the letter of intent of the school he's going to will probably leak out. So we'll keep tabs on that, and I'll keep you guys informed.
Cameron Robinson, linebacker out of Virginia, for those wondering. So that's what Florida State's got going on when it comes to high school. Obviously, transfer portal, they're number 4 now. It keeps moving as we record these podcasts, but they definitely look very positioned to have a top 20 high school class.
Right.
All right, so Brock Glenn, morning. It looks like Sam Singleton, morning. Hakeem, afternoon ceremony. Vandreas Jacobs looks like he's signing early in the morning. Goldie Lawrence is a guy that might have to wait, possibly. Mm-hmm. Andy Jean, you've got final decision, 11 a.m. over on the PRB. Lucas Simmons, he's good to go Wednesday morning. Talented offensive lineman, Clearwater. Chris Otto's, Michael's touched on. Keith Sampson from North Carolina, we think he's a morning guy too.
Yes,
Looks like. Lamont Green signing in the morning. Keldrick Falk, again, Michael's mentioned him. Jaden Jones, he's going to be coming in January. He's a JUCO guy, so he's pretty secure. Blake Nicholson, noon. Not sure if it's noon Eastern time or noon on the West Coast. Stay tuned. DeMarco Ward out of Georgia already had a ceremony, so he'll make it official early in the morning. Cam Robinson touched on Conrad Hussey, touched on Isaac Smith, touched on Edwin Joseph, touched on Quindarius Jones. 9 in the morning, he's a defensive back out of Meridian in Mississippi. KJ Kirkland, man, they're late ceremony, 6 p.m., but they're gonna get over in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these commits, a majority of these guys that are commits outside of Falk, they'll probably be sent in the morning. Maybe even Falk says something tonight publicly, like somehow he says, "I am staying with FSU." You might see something pop in the morning. But as of now, it's noon. But most of these FSU commits, I think you'll see rolling in early in the morning.
And just last thing before I let you go, Michael, I don't want to take away all the fun and joy of sign day because it really was such a fun thing for all of us for so long. But now I don't know if it's Twitter and these kids, wanting to put everything on there, and it kind of takes away some of the drama of silent commits. But we forget about Dante Anderson, right? He's a guy that kind of came out of nowhere in the last cycle. So there's always that possibility of if a guy like Keldrick Falk falls off, there might be some guy kind of 11th hour that we're not all that familiar with that can maybe sneak in. That wouldn't be the craziest thing. So it's important to really do kind of follow along on Wednesday.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we don't know for sure. Obviously, there could be somebody in mind that they're keeping to themselves, that they've kind of, hey, if there's an opening, that we'll do that. So it's something that we'll monitor, and if something happens, I'll definitely pop in and let people know. I'm not expecting. I haven't heard anything of guys that are still keeping warm or anything like that, but there's always somebody.
What about Travis Hunter? What about Dustin Hill? I'm just kidding. All right, that is a wrap for us. Again, we'll be live from 8 a.m. till noon, right on Warchant TV, which is our YouTube channel, live, 8 a.m. till noon. Tom Lang, myself, Michael Langston, some combination of us. And then the Jeff Cameron Show goes live from 1 to 3 o'clock. So we pretty much got you wall-to-wall live coverage, and it'll all be going on over at warchant.com as well throughout the day and the night. So be sure you're subscribed to warchant.com. Be sure you're subscribed to Warchant TV, the YouTube channel. That's totally free. And what else should they do, Michael?
Hit the like button always. Always, guys.
Well said. For Michael Langston and Corey Clark, we thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant. I'm Aslan Hudgevandy. Wake Up Warchant, as always, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. We'll talk to you all later.